The Disc Golf Pro Tour has a brand new presenting sponsor with Powerball. And we get our first results from our first event for the Tour Down Under with GoThrow, along with some contract news. But hey, let's talk about it. Welcome back, everyone, to Chain Reaction, the show where we take a look backwards and see things that have come out in the major news source, stuff that happened this past weekend, and it's the partner to our regular Understable discourse that comes out on Wednesdays that tries to look ahead. But today, I don't know what happened. The floodgates for news have just been opened on this particular Monday. We have MVP finally revealing what it is that they were hiding from us. We have Discraft teasing their team announcement. We've got the news about the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We've got results from the Taranaki Open, contract stuff. It's kind of wild. It's the wild, wild west of disc golf news today, and I'm going to try to help you navigate some of those things. Off the very top, I want to go ahead and talk about, some of the contract updates we've been seeing. If you're on the up and up, which you would be if you followed our short form content, where every day around 6 o'clock we release what's called the hot round. It comes out between 6 and 6:30. It's a 3-minute or less update on anything that's happened newsworthy within disc golf, professional disc golf. And it's a great place to go when you don't have time to sit down and listen to a long form show. I mean, for a good example is you're going to have, with one of our major announcements today we'll get into, you're going to have at least 5 different podcasts spend probably a total time of 12 plus hours getting you information about the partnership with Powerball. You can get all of that content within the 3 minutes or less over the course of the next few days. So if you don't have time to listen to all that stuff, the hot round is the place you go when you want it quickly. And you can find that stuff over on YouTube Shorts. You can find it on Instagram Reels, Facebook, and even the dreaded TikTok. We exist in all of those spaces. So go check that out. I'm sure you'll find that the information is really, really good and timely. You don't have to wait. But speaking of contracts, there's not a lot of new things to report from our recent show and from stuff that happened that's been already reported on the hot round. I would say one of the big ones is that Discmania has kind of had a couple people come out and say they're going to be re-upping for the next year. And some of the big rumors about who's going to go where people have been talking about is Discraft going to poach Niklas. Well, Niklas came out today and announced that he's going to be excited to be back for another year with Discmania. So that rumor pretty much squashed. Kyle Klein said he's going to be back. Harry Chase announced he's going to be back. I don't think we've heard a formal announcement from Gannon saying he's going to be back yet, but I don't think it's going to take too long for Gannon to make that statement that he'll be back with Discmania. I don't anticipate a major surprise of him leaving Discmania, like I've talked about before. I think that, next year when the contract is over, will he depart? I really, truly believe that. But this year, I think he's going to finish out his contract with Discmania. But that's kind of like what we have on the contract updates. I want to go back real quick and take a look at the announcement that we had from MVP. They came out several days in a row with some kind of cryptic messaging that all led up to a big announcement. Lots of people were speculating, things like as wild as signings of Bill Nye and James Proctor and Cale LaVisca, and it kind of, the stuff that people love. They love to go out there and get a little crazy, wondering what's going to happen. A bunch of people were suggesting it was going to be the announcement of Gyro X and the Beam and a couple other disc molds they've been waiting for. It turned out that MVP was basically just saying, hey, we're going to put different colored rims on our discs, including white rims, which I'll be honest with you, really sick to look at. I'm excited to get my hands on a couple white rim discs and some other colors, but not quite as big of an announcement as I think people were hoping it was going to be. So that came out over there. But so the Taranaki Open. We covered this on the daily hot round stuff, but I wanted to showcase a couple things before we get to our largest story of the day, which is the Powerball story. But going down over at the Inglewood Disc Golf Course in Inglewood, New Zealand, right in the shadow of Mount Taranaki, just this beautiful course and wonderful event went down as the first opening event of the Tour Down Under. Although, special note, not an event falling under the Go Throw points system. So this event did not count for Go Throw Tour points for those who are keeping track of those points. But we got the MPO coverage that came out on Go Throw. They are saying that the FPO coverage is going to come out shortly. I will say that last year there were a lot of promises of FPO coverage that never really turned into anything, so I'm hoping that's a little bit different here. I know it's a lot of work to get post-produce put up, but with the firepower on the lead card for FPO, you would think that maybe they would have put a little more effort into getting it out, because you did have players like Jennifer Smiley, Taylor Chosick, Kat Mertsch, Sophia Donica. Definitely talented enough players that getting them on coverage quickly would showcase why more FPO players should play in these types of events. Hopefully they get it out pretty soon. All right, so let's take a look at the FPO side of things pretty quickly here. After the first round, Taylor Chosick being the only player to be under par. Now, I'll preface this. The wins on this course were brutal. They were looking at another, like last year, it was like 20 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. Same situation this year. The winds made the course extremely difficult to play, so being under par at all is very impressive. And so Taylor was 2 under par after the first round, notably taking a bogey on 18 and a bogey on 17, something we'll be revisiting here. Kat Mertsch gets an ace on hole 15, which is really, really cool. But Taylor's got a 2-stroke lead over Jennifer Smiley, 3 strokes over Sophia Donica, and 4 strokes over Kat Mertsch going into round 2, where Taylor was able to double down and get 4 more strokes on the rest of the field by shooting 4 under par. And now we have a kind of a separation. You've got Taylor at -6, you've got Jennifer Smiley at -2, and then you've got Sarah Hokum and Kat Mertsch at +1, with Sophia Donica falling off to +3. And once again, though, Taylor getting a double bogey on hole 18, and she took a bogey on hole 16. And I bring that up because we're going to talk here about the third round, which is where things got really interesting with the FPO field. As partway into the round, I want to say through like 10 holes or 11 holes, both Taylor and Jennifer were tied. And coming down the wire, you look back at the last few days and you see that finishing stretch, and sure enough, that is what did Taylor in for this event, as she once again bogeyed hole 16 and bogeyed hole 18, giving, enough strokes over to Jennifer Smiley, who birdied both of those holes. So that's a 4-stroke swing across 2 holes, and that was enough to give Jennifer the win over Taylor Chosick. I'd say the most surprising story here for me would be where Sophia and Kat Mertsch finished, especially Kat Mertsch, the best player in the field by far, not even being able to get under par like Taylor and Jennifer were able to do. No shade to Taylor Chosick and Jennifer Smiley, both incredible competitors, but Kat Mertsch is a top 10 level FPO talent week in and week out on the Pro Tour. So I don't know if it's just like first, I'm going over and traveling, having a fun time, and maybe not fully focused up, but I would kind of expect to see Kat Mertsch be more competitive in this field. Hopping over to the MPO side, honestly, this was a Levi Stout show. I'm not going to spend too much time digging into this, other than to kind of shout out Levi Stout's praises here, because he came out in a very difficult, windy round and went 6 under par, bogey free for that opening 18 holes, putting himself 4 strokes above Bradley Williams, and then nobody else even being under par, even with the top talent of having people like Corey Ellis and Luke Humphreys being in attendance as well. Going into round 2, Levi did it again, 6 under par. He took a double bogey at some point, but that means he got 8 birdies, so still firing at all cylinders at this event. Bradley Williams does some catching up with 5 under par himself, getting to 7 down total overall, 5 strokes back of Levi going into the final round. And then sure enough, to finish it off, Levi did it again, went another 6 under par, and got to 18 under, having a 5-stroke lead over Bradley Williams, who came in second place, and 13 strokes over Corey Ellis, and 14 strokes over Aiden Scott. Levi is an incredibly talented player. When you look at the stat breakdown for him for this particular event, a couple things to take note of. Namely, C1X putting of 91%, and C2 putting. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the third round. Yeah, C1X putting of 91% for the event and 36% from C2. Now, you could expect maybe a player to do better than 91, to be better than 36. When you look at the wind they were playing in, the fact that he even hit 8 C2 putts in this event is beyond incredible. So the putting poise under pressure, that was fun to say, in these brutal winds, a testament to his level of professionalism. And at the end of the event, we were told, like, hey, he's coming over to the U.S. and playing on the tour this year. So I'm really excited to see that. I think you're going to be hearing Levi's name a lot more. Trust me, Levi Stout is here to stay. He's 19 years old. He's hungry and ready to play. And pretty much everyone is talking about him. If you go back to last season, and even before that, I have been shouting out Levi Stout's praises since the first time I saw him when he was 17 on the first tour down under. And then again last year, as he was battling Corey Ellis. Levi's the truth. But you know what else is the truth? Disc golf news, and our ability and our desire over here at Understable Discourse to bring you the disc golf news and the disc golf truth every single week on the Hot Round when we do our weekly shows. And one of the best ways that you can support the growth of our channel is to subscribe. We're trying to build something here, trying to make it special, and obviously with more growth and more success, the more I can put into this and the more I can do. And I'd love to be able to do that for you. So if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more, please hit the subscribe button or just engage with us down in the chat. But subscribe would mean a lot to me. Really appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the gigantic elephant in the room, which is the announcement of Powerball coming out as a presenting sponsor for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. This is a massive deal. It's a 2-year deal, which is pretty significant that it's not just one singular year. We get what we get and that's it. This is 2 years, which is a vote of confidence from Powerball. And so the big question was, where on earth, how did this even, turn into anything? Where did we get a connection to Powerball? And so both Dominic DeFibo and Sean Jack appeared on the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, which is where they kind of debuted this information, which makes sense because the Pro Tour's connection to Jomez, that they would kind of give them the inside scoop here. And since then, you've seen now the Upshot has reported on it. Jeff Spring is going to be on Staggered Stance. Jeff Spring will also be on Tour Life tomorrow night, and undoubtedly will probably make an appearance on Smashbox TV. They're doing the entire press junket for this release. It's something else. It is insanity. But on that show of All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, they talked about how the Disc Golf Pro Tour has a partnership with a company called Pivot. They are like a sports marketing, travel, and lifestyle company that specializes in brand consulting, property consulting, travel, hospitality, and all that kind of stuff. And one of their reps there, their salesperson who works at the DGPT, Antoinette, she was talking to a man named Jay, who is the executive director of the Oklahoma Lottery. And he's also a pandemic disc golfer, really enjoys disc golf. And she kind of put it out there like, hey, I've got, someone who wants to partner and make things work. So they went to work on the back end, behind the scenes, grinding to make it come together. And November 4th, it was officially approved by Powerball, this relationship, the contract, everything. And just when I think about the work behind that and how it kind of just was perfect that this person, that's kind of how the story's been, right? When you look back at the Microsoft Teams connection, the Barbasol stuff, a lot of these things, there's a person playing disc golf somewhere. And it kind of starts these conversations and gets us into new places. But this is unlike anything we've ever seen before. I mean, this is the largest non-endemic sponsorship in the history of disc golf. I'll let you in a little secret. People have been throwing out that term, non-endemic partnership. If you don't know what that means, basically it's a partner who they don't directly specialize in or prioritize the thing. So Powerball doesn't directly specialize in or prioritize disc golf. It's not a disc golf company. They are a lottery company that now happens to be partnering with disc golf. So that's what non-endemic means. Like if you had a company like Discraft came out and sponsor, they're now one of the big premier sponsors for the Worlds. that's not an example of non-endemic, because Discraft's main business is disc golf, and so that's what it basically means. So just in case you were curious. So one of the things that I've noticed is that the reception since it was announced has been kind of mixed, if we're being honest here. We got maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of people are either very excited or they want more information. This is good news for the growth of the sport. But then there is that other portion, that 1/3 or 1/4, that just sees this as more gambling is sinking its teeth into the sport that is supposed to be grassroots, and this is big corporate stuff coming in, and we shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. And so Nate Perkins saw that as an opportunity to kind of ask that question to Sean and Dom to find out like what their perspectives are. And Dom kind of put it out there for us that a large portion of the ticket sales that happen for Powerball have money going back into the community for support for education, veterans assistance, parks and rec, and numerous other things. And over the past 33 years, Powerball has given more than $38 billion back to local communities as they try to return money purchased in an area to needs in that same area. And so according to Dom and Sean, that is something that aligns really greatly with what they want to do with the DGPT. So they feel like this is a solid sponsorship. That is, even though the lottery is gambling in a sense, it's definitely different than the typical gambling, as it features much more responsible behaviors and that kind of thing.
And this is my question for you, Dominic, is can you kind of elaborate on the topic of was it ever difficult to move forward with this company, and can you illuminate a little bit more on why we said yes to Powerball?
More than half of the proceeds that you pay in that $2 ticket actually go back to the communities, and I could get reinvested back into into the communities in where you bought that ticket. And so I think when we look at when we looked at this opportunity, I think what we really tried to think about is, do our missions and do our direction of where we're going, do those things align?
So whether how you feel about that's completely up to you. I'll talk about my thoughts on that here in a moment. But what does this look like for the Disc Golf Pro Tour? From a naming perspective, the Pro Tour is now going to be known as the Disc Golf Pro Tour presented by Powerball. The point standings will now be the Powerball DGPT World Standings. We have the Powerball DGPT Playoffs. And then I think one of the more interesting ones is that the Tour Championship is going to be renamed to the Powerball Cup. And one of the things that we're really curious about is what is this going to do for money for events, because they really make a big point in this interview to talk about how this sponsorship or this partnership is really good for not just fans and disc golf in general, but also for the players. And so Sean confirmed this is going to be the largest purse ever for the Pro Tour Championship. So that's great to hear. I'm excited to hear what that number is.
I think it's like three buckets, right? It's like what's in it for the players, what's in it for the fans, and what's in it for other partners. The players, as Dom said, will have the largest purse in Tour Championship or Powerball Cup history.
They would not reveal what the total number of this partnership was, the money involved, but it is pretty clear that it is sizable from the people that I've talked to. In fact, this is something that I've kind of had some inkling for a little while now, and some of my contact information, I kind of knew about this, but I really wasn't allowed to tell you guys, unfortunately. It sounds like it's a pretty big deal. A lot of money's coming into disc golf with this, with potential for more. And there's going to be new physical course assets, new tournament amenities, and for fans, something really cool being implemented is the Powerball Ace. And so what that is for all 15 events this year on U.S. soil, at each one of the events, 5 random participants are going to be selected from ticket holders who have Saturday tickets, both VIP and general admission. And those 5 random participants are going to be given an opportunity to hit an ace from hole 1 prior to the start of the MPO lead card on Saturday. Now, the hole is going to be made, they're not going to make them play hole 1 traditionally. They're going to make a temporary hole in the neighborhood of like 175 to 200 feet. and allow them to throw. And anybody, if they hit the ace, they win $5,000. And if no aces are hit, closest to the pin wins $500. And if no aces are hit, $1,000 will be added to the pot and it's moved to the next event. So that means if no one gets it at Supreme Flight, $1,000 added goes to the next place, and that could go on all the way until the end of the year when someone could be trying to throw an ace in for 15 grand, which is pretty crazy to think about. And the cool part is if someone hits the ace, the next week it just resets to the $5,000. So that opportunity will always kind of be there. And even if an ace is hit, the next closest person is going to get $500 for the CTP. So this is really cool. I think this is a neat thing they're going to be adding as sort of like a pre-round showcase, a halftime event, whatever you want to call it. A neat chance to bring that like lottery perspective of the Powerball to the Disc Golf Pro Tour to create this kind of activation that allows people to see and get an opportunity to win $5,000. One asked about things like future and current sponsorships and partnerships and stuff like that. They really believe, Sean and Dom, that this is going to strengthen the conversation around other sports networks and broadcasting networks. When we go in there and we're able to say this is the Disc Golf Pro Tour powered or presented by Powerball, it garners a lot more notoriety and attention. And I think when you've got a multi-billion-dollar company kind of on your side, doors tend to open a little bit. And so they're trying to really engage people in that space, and also Powerball players who aren't into disc golf. They're not really sure what that's going to look like quite yet. They're working on all that back end stuff. So all that being said, here are my thoughts on this particular situation. I think this is a lot to take in as a fan and somebody in the general disc golf media, because as a fan, this looks really great on the surface. That yes, there are some concerns about like the partnership with a gambling style company, but as someone who's been really a student of professional disc golf over the last several years, I can tell you that if this is as good as they say it is, there could be some really significant ripple effects over the course of time with a deal like this. Like there is no way to really help you understand how big of a deal this could be outside of just kind of seeing it happen, because this can open a lot of doors for the Pro Tour. You know, the partnership that Powerball has with NASCAR is significant, and imagine growing this to a point where that $5,000 ace opportunity turns into $50,000, turns into more than that. But that's all going to come down to, I think, my biggest concern, which is I am a man who tends to look at history. My experience is in business operations and that kind of stuff. And there have been times when it doesn't feel like the Pro Tour always capitalizes on every opportunity they've been given. And they tend to do a lot of pivoting in a lot of places. They do a lot of things really well. I don't want to just sit here and throw shade at the Pro Tour. But my concern is that they take this incredible opportunity and they don't squeeze it for everything that it's worth. I think that's the big thing that I want to see, is if I know that this opportunity could lead to so much more, we need to make our Pro Tour coverage as great as possible. So like the idea that, you know, love him or hate him, the idea of having a little bit less Terry in the booth, although we've talked about how that's probably going to be changing because there's just a little bit behind that people don't know about. But having less Terry in the booth, you know, and putting more of like uncertainty on the people who are there. As you look at the fandom surveys and you see some of the people like, you know, Doss and Perkins, who are a little less beloved by fans, you know, I want to see the best product possible so we get the best return for Powerball. Because remember, folks, these partnerships aren't just a thing where Powerball comes in and gives us money and it's like, yay, we got all this free money. No, this is a partnership, right? They give to us and they expect in return. And that's kind of how it works. So I hope that we're able to really utilize this to do the best thing possible, put our best foot forward, and showcase that we are the kind of sport that deserves partnerships of this level going forward. So I'm excited to see what value it brings. I do have concerns about, you know, the whole gambling aspect of thing. I'm personally not 100% gambling. I've played the Powerball before, you know, when it's gotten to like over $1 billion. And that kind of thing. I think ultimately it comes down to the individual just having to be very responsible, despite gambling having ruined a lot of lives over the years. I think it's tough to say the tour can't partner with companies that have, you know, people who have abused what those companies are for. For instance, like a couple of years ago, I think like an alcohol, like a whiskey company sponsored a big FPO purse. No one was sitting back going, people will abuse alcohol, so alcohol shouldn't be sponsoring anything related to disc golf. I know Brian said a number of years ago, I think they had a cannabis-based sponsor, and no one kind of got all open arms about that kind of stuff. So I think it's all taken with a grain of salt, and we try to be as responsible as we can. And I would say on the line of where gambling is the lottery really high on that line in terms of danger? And from my perspective, it's not. But ultimately, that's for you to decide. And let me know what you think. What do you think of this kind of partnership? Is this something that you see as rocket fuel? It's going to take disc golf to a next level that we've never seen before, or is this going to be something that just it's here for a couple of years and then we're moving on to the next thing? I'd love to know what you think down below. If you have any questions for me, opinions you want of mine, put them in the comments down below, and I'll make sure to address them for you in our next episode that comes out on Wednesday as we look ahead to the 2026 season. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Chain Reaction. If you have, make sure to go down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to help grow our channel. And have a wonderful rest of your evening, morning, whatever time you're watching this. Appreciate each and every one of you. Until I talk to you next time, go watch some disc golf. Go play some disc golf. See you later.